Labas, as I learnt to say yesterday. My name is Andy Flynn. I work for a company called John Lewis, based in London. They're one of the best and biggest retailers in the United Kingdom. My talk today is called Contracts of Converse. It's not a technical story, it's more of a personal story. It's about human beings, me being one of them. And it's my journey from doing senior management positions to working in an Agile team. It's a story over just over a year of that journey. And one of the things I set out to do was, I'm a private person, and I've never spoken at a conference, so I wanted to do those two things and kind of test myself and stretch myself. So I hope you enjoy it. So where to begin? Always a good place to start is at the beginning. In spring last year, I was working in contract management. I just helped to implement a £20 million renegotiation with one of our suppliers. For those who haven't worked in contract management, you're going to lots of meetings wearing suits. There's lots of politics and posturing, but you're kind of presenting value to the board or to your heads of department. And I was now looking at a really exciting opportunity. It is huge. It is transformational within the organisation across John Lewis and Waitrose, where we were going to renegotiate with all our suppliers to get big value for money. It's £100 million. It would have been personally very rewarding. And so I spent 2 months lining up heads of departments and different engineering managers to do this change. So this is me just before going into a meeting to decide, are we going to start this thing? Are we going to do it? Because it's the best thing for the organisation. And I was really excited. So who went on holiday last year? So so excited. Was it a good holiday? I'm going to pick on you. Lots of planning going into it? No? Unlike me. So this is what I felt like. I was about to take off on a jet and go on a holiday to an exciting destination. So I was in the departure lounge, ready for this meeting to sign off and start going. Unfortunately, the flight got cancelled. I was so upset. I was really disappointed. I just wanted to do something. I wanted to deliver value to the organisation. But I couldn't, because someone had said, it's not worth doing this project. 12 months later, we're doing the project, but still, I couldn't wait that long. So I expressed my disappointment, and my boss offered me a carrot. He said, Andy, we're doing a digital transformation. You're a leader in our test practice. You've always talked about wanting to do Agile and to lead. So why don't you go and work on our mobile apps team? So I said, well, let me have a think about it. So I had a decision to make. I don't know if anyone's ever had a decision to make to take a dramatic shift in their career. Has anyone done that recently or done that at all? Okay, so I had that decision to make. So I took that decision based on my values. I wanted to be a leader of my team, and I've always thought about I've always been a continuous learner, and I've been learning about Agile. I talked about wanting to go into an Agile team, and now I have this opportunity. So, stick or twist? I decided to go for it. This isn't me on holiday, this is me diving in. I went on a quest to be a modern tester, to really follow the kind of the dreams and thought leaders that we had within the organisation. We had people like Dan North consulting with us, and ThoughtWorks and Liz Keogh. If you haven't heard of these guys, they're very inspirational, very exciting. And so I decided that I was going to go for it, and I was going to lead the way for a number of other, for 200 people were asking to make a similar change. And to do that, I had to find inspiration. So I found my thought leaders, my inspiration. I also had to adopt a different mindset. I was used to managing teams of dozens of people, up to 50 people. And now I was going to go into a team as an engineer where I didn't have the skills that I needed to survive. I didn't have, I hadn't been technical for 10 years. So what was I going to do? How was I going to do it? I had to adopt a learning mindset. I had to be patient, and I had to be humble. So those are the kind of starting behaviours that I adopted. And when I started, it was brilliant. I went into a really cool team. It was our mobile apps team. It was a young, dynamic team. They'd been up and running with Agile for a while. We were given training. We were sort of 2 days of Agile 101, a couple of days of pair programming training with developers so that we could kind of build transferable skills. And I was lucky enough to be given some Agile coach training, which was very fortunate to have been given that opportunity. I learnt in that period of time, after 2 months, I look back on how much learning I've been done, because we were given license to reskill, to learn new ways of working, to disrupt, to change the way we worked. And I learnt 30 different things. Testing, exploratory and non-functional testing, was looking at security testing, everything you'd need to know about an iPhone and didn't even think you knew about, I had to learn that. Agile coaching techniques, started to learn programming foolishly. I've already tried to install about 4 different IDEs and learn 5 different languages at once, but never do that if you're there. But it was so exciting, it was so rewarding, and learning, have that liberation, not having to deal with the politics of management. Unfortunately, not everyone was as impressed with this party atmosphere as I was. I'd made some assumptions. Those assumptions have turned out not to be true. Our business and IT were not aligned on what Agile meant and what this transformation meant. We didn't have a license to change things. Our team just wanted me to do what the old tester did, which is kind of work in a silo at the end and just churn through all the bugs he could find and test everything. And I had also got stuck on a delivery problem. I'd assumed that other teams around the organisation were Agile and they would help me do it. They weren't Agile. They're working to KPIs, which is basically don't help anyone else, just get that off your work queue. And I'd also made an assumption about my own abilities. I'd overextended myself. What I'd been able to do 10 years ago, I wasn't able to do now because it is way more complex. But fortunately, I managed to get out of jail in time to go on a holiday and save my bacon. And I was fine. I was very relieved. Unfortunately, when I got back, this Bart Simpson, those don't know him, it had actually got worse. My stakeholders, my PO was not happy with what I'd been doing. He said I'd been spending too much time away from the team. I had to help lead a test practice and I had to help a community of practice for coaching. But he didn't know that and he didn't care I had to do that. Some of my peers thought I hadn't been sharing what I'd been doing. I'd spent a lot of time learning because I was just trying to deal with being an imposter in a role and trying to build up those skills. I didn't feel safe in the team because nobody seemed to be covering for me. My practice, my delivery lead, I just didn't feel safe, and so I wanted to leave. But fortunately, Bart has a sister, Lisa Simpson. Lisa Simpson's turned out to be a role model of mine. I didn't know this until I started to think about it. The good thing about Lisa is that if you've ever watched Simpsons, she never gives up. And I wasn't going to give up. I was going to be determined to make a success of this change. So I reflected on what I had been doing, and I knew I'd done some good stuff, so I took that good stuff and said, keep that. I listened to the feedback that I've been getting. It wasn't feedback that I liked, but there's some important messages in there. So I took that to adapt my change. And also I thought I've been learning way too much. If I talk about being an Agile coach and wanting to be an Agile coach and work within an Agile way, then where are my Agile principles? Why aren't I managing my work in progress? Why am I not finishing things off? So I thought about that. And I realized that I wasn't part of the tribe. I'd been too heads down in trying to make this change, that I didn't connect with people in my practice and I didn't connect with people in my team. So I needed to reconnect with the various teams that I was associated with. I needed to prove myself. I had this opportunity to prove myself not long afterwards. So does anyone know what this is? This is called the Marathon des Sables. Is there any French speakers in here? Okay, so what it is, it's an ultra marathon. It's very cruel. It's an ultra marathon. It's 6 marathons back to back. so it's 100 and what, make it up, 160 kilometres. You're running in the desert, running in dry, arid heat, wearing your backpacks. And the cruelest thing about it is it's in French. And so I took this opportunity. There's a project that had to be delivered by the end of the year. We've been working on that. We had been one-starred in the App Store, which is not a good look. And so I was determined to take the right approach and to take what I thought I was going to do and talked about doing and take that approach. It was a long slog. It was one of those cursed projects that if you've worked in software, in non-agile teams particularly, you're familiar with. There weren't any requirements. The interfaces around you kept changing. The data in the environments were flaky and rubbish. You had these big long tests and it kept breaking. But by focusing on what we had to do, by collaborating with the team, by stripping the waste out of the system, I was able to help deliver the project. And as we crossed the finish line, we got into production, and there's no priority ones or priority twos after 3 months worth of development. So I felt very relieved that I wasn't going to get beaten up for causing a problem. And I also, afterwards, was able to, after I crossed the finish line, was to talk to someone who'd been one of my biggest critics, and to sit down with them and redress the balance and to say, this is what was going on for me, what was your perception? And that is really, really helpful to kind of really listen deeply and take these things on board, to understand where the other person was coming from, but still be able to present your view. And then from the searing heat of the desert, some relief. It was Christmas time. I got to spend 2 weeks with my family, a time to reflect, a time to spend time with my loved ones, with my children, my wife, and also opportunities to get very drunk, which is great. So, does anyone know this film? Catch Me If You Can. Matt Damon is a con man, he's an imposter. So after Christmas, I decided that I wasn't going to feel like an imposter anymore. I've been doing this for 6, 7, 8 months, and I proved myself. I came back in the new year, and I got, out of nowhere, two very talented developers who I very much respect. Both said to me at different points in the first few weeks that I was doing a really good job, and that really gave me confidence, and I was very pleased with that. And so I started to rethink what I don't know, what I can't do, to what I do know and what I can do. And that is a really big shift and really helped to build momentum and confidence in the following months, or the beginning of the year. And so, do we know who this actor is in the white suit? It's John Travolta. John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. Reservoir Dogs as well. My favourite trivia fact about John Travolta is that he's a real pilot. Over the course of this year, I've realised that I'm a real modern tester, and I really understand Agile, getting it, continuously improving in that space. What happened is I went from being an imposter to having my story change. Other people around the organisation saw me as a role model for this change. I'd gone from being a manager and being safe to being brave and changing the way I worked and how I worked to try and add value to teams. I also started to do things that I wanted to do last year, but I couldn't do because I was struggling. I helped, first of all, arrange some training for 20 of our team to tackle one of the biggest problems that we'd faced, which is we're all scared of test automation, what it meant and how to do it. And it really helped to break the myths and give lots of people confidence, including myself. I started to run some lean coffee sessions around testing topics, and along with other people started to run technical sessions, which was a really nice way to give back to the community and to help other people grow and to really test my knowledge. And then it built and built and built. And I started to program. I'd never programmed before last year. I'd always avoided it because it was too hard. But I managed to make a couple of production changes and pair with programmers and help them think about things differently, which is great. I did a bunch of other stuff as well, just a myriad of things I can't remember and I won't bore you. So when I was doing this talk, submitted the paper and I re-reviewed it. I'd hoped to have done more. But then I realised, actually, I don't have these cool stories about writing loads of production code or helping to write a whole entire automation framework, which is where I thought it'd take me. But I achieved balance. I'd learned so much in the first 6 months that I was able to do things without thinking about them, which added value. I stripped out I helped to really improve the testing process and the quality process within the team. But critically, I found balance outside work. I was able to help my mum after she had a major operation. I had time to get married, and it was great. And it was even better than Munich Beer Festival I talked about earlier. And also, I had time to help my son with his exams. And it was nice to have that balance. Someone asked me the other day what the key takeaways would be of this talk. And they change every day because it depends on the context of who's asking or how I'm feeling about things. But I guess the way to answer it is, what advice would I give myself if I was to do this again? I think if you're going to make a change, if you're going to do anything, then be guided by your values. If you're going to do something new or try something new, find principles, whether they're agile principles or the testing principles that get talked about if you're in a testing space. And these can help guide your ideas and where you go to. You can also find inspiration there's lots of people here today who are inspiring. They're on Twitter, they talk at meetups. Or you can go and read a blog. Or you have a colleague you look up to. Find your inspiration. There's lots of ways. Power your learning. I thank FLYNN to the next idea. Stop, collaborate and listen. Take time to stop and think about yourself and how you're doing. Reflect on where you're going. How are you using your energy? Collaborate. Work with people. Work with your team members. Work across your other teams. Support people. Teach them. Work on initiatives to improve the organisation. Turn it into learning culture. And listen. If you get some feedback you don't like, or you're hearing something about someone else that you're not sure about that's not negative, listen, think about what is going on, and don't just judge. There's a real art to deep listening, and we think we listen, we don't always do. Listen hard. And one of my second to last piece of advice is adopt a growth mindset. There's some great material on there about growth mindset. Look it up on YouTube if you haven't found out about it. But essentially it is, I can't do that yet. Having the confidence that you'll get there, that you'll be able to achieve, that you'll be able to develop the skills you'll need. Because as IT professionals, any professional, it's an ongoing learning journey. We just don't qualify on one thing and we're done. We always have to learn and adapt. And the final thing for me is, after years of working in suits and politics, I managed to strip away a facade and things I've hidden behind. And I've become more vulnerable as a person, and that's been a powerful thing because it's allowed me to connect with other people, and it's allowed me to use my energy in growth rather than trying to preserve status. I'd like to thank you all very much, and I hope you have a great day.